Chelsea are world champions, and I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments, actually, what you have thought of the Club World Cup. I'm in the minority. I've absolutely loved it. Moving aside the weather and the breaks in play, I think the competition has been really good. I think teams have taken it seriously. It's been a good way of seeing how new strikers come in, new signings come in, in terms of, like we're going to talk about today, João Pedro. And I think teams have used it as a really competitive pre-season. I'd love to hear what you've thought of it down in the comments. But today we're talking about Chelsea, the world champions. We covered them last week, and I went through 3 or 4 different variations of Maresca's flexibility within a set system. And I really think it's something, I've covered it in FM24. When FM26 comes out, we're going to cover it again into more detail. But when a manager is turning up with a squad as well, as good as it is with Chelsea, really strong, loads of players that can play in similar positions but offer very, very different things. And I love the way, once again, in the final here, he's changed it up. So he'd done this a little bit, I think, in one of the previous games where he played Enzo as kind of the number 10 in a 4-2-3-1. And I think the Enzo role was very important. I think that was to really stop build up from the back. If you notice, most of this kind of analysis today is based on that first 45 minutes when the damage was done. And at times, Enzo would line up here alongside João Pedro, forcing back passes into Donnarumma. Enzo would go press and then he would have to kick long. So that was kind of stopping PSG getting any sort of like early build-up and early control in the game. A lot of teams, PSG are used to, and it's probably the worst thing you can do to a certain extent is sit back and allow them to find rhythm, especially what Inter Milan did in the final. I think you've really got to get at them. It is tiring, but they put in a tremendous shift. That first 45 minutes pressing, aggressive, counter-attacking these wide areas that we'll talk about as well. Super impressive from a team that, I don't think they're going to be Premier League champions, but they've got a really, really good squad and giving them lots of different options, injuries. Don't worry, they've got maybe 2 or 3 players that can go in and do similar roles. I've been really impressed with Chalobah and Colwell. Them two, probably my favourite two in terms of the balance in there between those two. Love to hear your thoughts down in the comments, Chelsea fans. Which two are your favourite? The goalkeeper, he had a really impressive performance last night, but we maybe know that he needs to move on. So how did they play? So we know they kind of built up in this, they kind of defended high in this 4-4-2. And then when it came back to sort of like deep pressure, Enzo, if you look at his heat map, he was kind of all in this left half space. They dropped in as much as they can to make a 4-5-1. But in possession, we know that he likes to build up in a 3-2-5, and it was Cucurella who was given the option. If we just put the average positions up, you can see he's built up. His position was a little bit deeper. Chalobah, the right centre-back, was a little bit wider as well, and that allowed Gusto to move forward. He ended up creating, I think, the second goal, was it? He got into this area here, had a couple of shots, and it was blocked, and then he ended up laying in Cole Palmer. So we know he was nice and wide. Neto is an interesting one, similar to Madueke, where they're kind of using the wingers a little bit differently. Like, he's left-footed and did keep his width on the right here and would drive in, but this time he was on his left. Still cut in at times, I think, for the first big chance of the game. Palmer, I think, played it into Pedro. Neto played it into João Pedro. Lovely little flick to Palmer, who was in and around here, and he should have buried it. That little move was him cutting in, but still staying extremely wide, looking to exploit that space left from Hakimi. You'd often see João Pedro come in, and he played a wonderful flick later on in the first half to get Neto in down this left-hand side. They broke, and I think in the end it was a really poor cross into Donnarumma's hands. So there was your 3. Neto keeping wide. Caicedo and James, if you look at their heat maps right now, just defensive midfielders staying in there. James has got wonderful quality as well as moving the ball and shifting it. João Pedro favoured this right half space with then Palmer coming in a little bit deeper. He was often working with James, Chalobah and Gusto. I think one of the goals, it could have even been the first goal. Gusto pulls the defender back. João Pedro goes high, and it leaves this huge space for Palmer to come into. Then he drove in and scored. So that's what we're going to try and create in FM24. So this is what I've put together. Now, what we are going to do is we're actually going to play a game against Leeds United, just see how it works. But I'm going to show you a couple of little goals to start with. We've had a pretty decent start to the season, a 1-1 draw, sorry, 0-0 draw against Sunderland. Something that might affect Chelsea, like it's all right playing PSG. It's not all right playing PSG, but we know that they leave a lot of space in the wide areas with the two aggressive fullbacks. We know that they play a really high line, so you kind of have the opportunity to counter-attack, which when you're playing teams maybe like Sunderland away from home or at home in particular, you're not going to get the space in behind, I suppose, to create and counter. So something that maybe Chelsea suffered last year, but with the introduction of a little bit more quality up front, João Pedro and Liam Delap, they might be able to take the chances, the good chances that they get in those tighter games. So we played pretty well, was still a little bit disappointed with that performance in terms of not getting a win. Then we had Manchester City at home, played pretty well, even-ish, still not creating great, but defensively looking really good. And then we've just gone to Everton and we've picked up a 2-1 win, dominated the game, 73% possession, exactly what I'm after. And we got a couple of nice goals. Remember, we're wanting sort of like that movement of gusto down the right-hand side. So it's actually been cleared. It's like a second phase or second wave of it. I think it was maybe a corner or a cross. Palmer's in really narrow. That sucks in Mikalenko, look, defender. What we're wanting is to catch out the wide player who's sleeping a little bit. Gusto with his pace, gets to the byline, low cross in, João Pedro at the near post. And our second was typical. This was like Neto at the weekend, flying in from that right-hand side. Palmer off the right, cutting in and firing in a typical Cole Palmer goal. So, really happy with how it is so far. We're going to cover the game now against Leeds United. You patrons, the tactic is available for you right now. Link down in the description. Massive thank you to everyone who's been supporting the channel, not just Patreons, channel members as well, who get early access to the videos. And then just you guys that are just watching and copying the tactics in yourself. We appreciate it. Channel has had a tremendous June and is having a really good July. So, GG. And as always, links to everything down in the description. Let's go play Leeds United. So straight away, Cole Palmer. I think we have got sit narrow and we're just going to break it down. Look how narrow he is. And then all that does is then just allow Gusto. Now, Palmer doesn't need him, but he could have switched the ball out here. Probably would have been the better ball, but he did go for that creative movement. That more direct pass, into João Pedro. Fullback, that must be Schmidt. Yeah, Schmidt must be playing left back. Pulled across, so we've got that option down that right-hand side with Gusto. Right, we've won the ball. So there we go. So now Enzo's looking to work that half space. We've now got Neto in that 1v1. Here he goes. The pace, just sometimes the quality without the ball, with the final cross delivery. Not a bad cross into the box. There's Caicedo and James, Justin, really good, like both of them. Really good rest defence. Got a good structure. I did say as well, I don't think I've got Cucurella. If I go into his player instructions, yeah. I think what we're going to do is just ask him to sit narrower. He's just a little bit too wide for there. Like, he didn't that often get down that left-hand side. Yeah, he could be, if he's in here, we're probably in a better position. If there's a little bit of a counter-attack, we're probably in a little bit of a better position. João Pedro in at that near post again. We are doing low crosses because we know that they're not great. João Pedro, Delap is to a certain extent, but we're going low crosses so we get sort of like cutbacks. Cole Palmer, Enzo driving into the penalty area and then looking for little knocks across maybe to the near post for João Pedro to get on the end of. Okay, so half-time, we're kind of in control of the game, 50% possession. Leeds have had a couple of goals from set pieces, but maybe this is the thing that sometimes works against Chelsea, is just maybe the tempo at times. We are going to have to make a substitution down the left. So we are going to bring Gittins onto that left-hand side. We'll keep him wide. But what we are going to do is put the tempo up to higher. And we're going to go wide, attacking width, and see if we can really get Gittins 1v1, Gusto 1v1 round that right and left-hand side. I'm still not entirely happy with the role of Cucurella. We really want him involved in build-up, so we're going to go inverted fullback. See, that's better. See where he is now? James. I do like the idea of having James in the midfield. It'd probably save his legs a little bit, and I can do backup at right fullback as well. As Cole Palmer jinks through a few, and it's out for a corner. I think this is a lineup that you may see from Chelsea in the bigger games, where having 2 6s alongside Enzo And then when they play teams maybe that are playing against a low block, expected to dominate, Enzo will then go in as a 6/8, and then they'll bring maybe an Nkunku in. They'll maybe play Neto and Gittins out wide. They'll maybe drop João Pedro to be a number 10 and play Delap up there. We know João Pedro played a lot of that last season for Brighton. So many options, Chelsea. They've been mocked over the past sort of like 2 years, haven't they, for their signings, but they have built an exceptional squad, and now it would be a case of selling players on, trimming the squad maybe a little bit of players that haven't worked out, but then, you know, from next season onwards, I think buying really good. Obviously, we know that they're probably going to buy young players, but not maybe they might turn out to be a superstar, like buying superstar young players, I think, to complement the squad. They've done a really good... I don't know if it's been like there was method to the madness, or it was just fire, you know, if you throw lots of shit, what's that? Throw enough shit at the wall, some sticks kind of thing, and they've managed to stumble their way upon a really good squad, or, you know, has it been clever? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. So, Palmer starts wide, look, which is interesting because we have got Sitnara on. Let me just take off Caicedo because he is struggling. We're into the latter stages of the game. I do think it's a lot better that we've asked the players to be wider. That's a lovely ball into João Pedro. It's saved. So what we may start now doing, let's move it like we would do if we were probably chasing a game. Let's bring Delap on. Let's play João Pedro as a shadow striker, which we know that he's really good at. And then let's see Delap lead the line. Like controlling the game, it's fine. Leeds have not had a shot. It's just that individual... You know, what I might do is just add on two tactics for you, like the tactic we've got now, where we've just got shadow striker, we've gone pressing forward. Gittins is going for it down this left-hand side. Let's get bodies in the box, boys. Delap's there, good in the air, straight at the goalie. So yeah, that's the only sticking point, potentially. Tempo a little bit too slow. We have upped the tempo, we've still controlled the game. This one probably works better against teams that, you know, you're expecting Gusto, oh, he's at the bar, or the post, one of the two. So there's something to think about. You know, the opponent you're playing, do we maybe need to play wider? Do we need to maybe play quicker like we've done in the second half? So I will leave two versions of it. You know, once again, it's not so good, Maresca, at just constant little tweaks from game to game or even mid-game just to help see yourself over the line. I've probably left it too late. Oh, we're in! Oh, he's missed it up. I've probably left it too late to make those changes. But it's what you expect from a Chelsea team. Controlled performance, solid 3-2-5 build-up, and lots of little differences in personnel means lots of little differences in player roles in Football Manager. I'm super impressed by the Club World Cup from them. I'm really looking forward to actually watching them this season and seeing how they manage the Premier League, the big games. You know, they started so well and dropped off. I do think maybe the squad is going to be, you know, it's going to be better than last season. Keeping players fit, keeping James fit, having Delap and João Pedro in there, giving them extra options as number 10s for João Pedro as well. So there we go. Right, the tactic itself. So this is the base tactic that we started with, and then we'll make another little version at the end with the João Pedro kind of role. So sweeper keeper on support for Sanchez. No player instructions. Gusto, fullback on attack. We want him going round as much as possible. Chalobah, I've got ball playing defender on defend. Stay wider, so we build up a little bit in that back three. Remember, Gusto's going to go up in possession, so Chalobah, just a little bit better. Positioning would be good. A little bit wider in terms of rest defence. Colwell, ball playing defender, no player instructions. So the Kukurea role, we're going to change it to an inverted fullback on defend. I think the more attacking version will probably change that, like we do in a minute, but inverted fullback, just so we get that nice build-up. James, I've just gone a DLP on defend for him with Caicedo, defensive midfielder on support. Could be ball winner. It could even be anchor. To be fair, in this game, he was very much an anchor because of the quality of PSG. So you're kind of free. Times I did find, though, Caicedo on support. I'm actually going to drop it on to defend. I just found him a little bit too high and would be right behind Enzo. So I might just put that on defend for you to start with. Gives you an even better base, maybe. Out of possession, you know, your rest defence, things like that. Cole Palmer. Run from position, sit narrow. We've already got Dribble more on cut inside because he's inverted winger on support. We want support, so he drops into these areas and drives. Fernandez, I've gone AM on support, but I've changed it a little bit. There's loads of player instructions. Take fewer risks because, he's not the most creative type. Want him to be, I think the idea Enzo was in the team, last night, was to really work the back line, put pressure on Marquinhos, kind of the out of possession stuff. Dribble less, hold position, close down more, tackle harder, mark tighter. Neto, out on the left-hand side, just bog standard winger on attack, keeping his width as much as possible. And then João Pedro, complete forward on attack. He held it well. He pinned the centre-halves at times. He worked this right channel. Super impressive performance from him. Into the team instructions. Positive mentality. I've gone fairly wide attacking width, but the other tactic will have it wide. Play out of defence. We've gone focused down the right. Just look at the pass map from the first, I think even the game or the first half. I can't remember which one it is. But all the focus passes going down that right-hand side. Gusto, James, Pedro moving across, obviously Cole Palmer. So, we're going play out defence. We've played focus down the right. Slightly shorter passing, slightly higher tempo, low crosses, work into the box. In transition, we're not going to counter. They'll do it naturally anyway. We've Neto down that left-hand side, but it's still a little bit more controlled in how they want to attack. Counter press, obviously. Counter press, definitely yes, after that first half performance. Gut and distribute the ball to centre halves. Out of possession, much high line, high press, little bit extra on the trigger press, and prevent short distribution. They were really tough on trying to get Donnarumma to kick it long and not play out from the back. Step up, defensive line. All right, the little tweak that we're going to make. So I want you to think, you maybe need to push on like we did and probably left it too late. Let's bring on the shadow striker in João Pedro. And then let's have Delap as that pressing forward. So it would look a little bit like that with, I would maybe say, wing back on defence and then Cucurella. Just gives you a little difference. And then in here, we'll go wide. There's an argument that you could probably go wide in the first tactic if you wanted to. And then we'll go higher tempo, just like that. And we'll call that Club World Cup V2. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts about Chelsea. How well are they going to do this season? They're going to get a good couple of weeks break. They've also rested a lot of players. There's been a lot of rotation in there. Badiashile's played a lot of games. Lavia's played and Kunku's played. Goalkeepers even played. Tossin's played. Dewsbury Hall's played. Madueke's played. Jackson's played. They've rotated exceptionally well, and I think they can do that throughout the season without it having... I think they need to get this right and not rotate the two centre-halves. Let them two play as much as possible. And then the others you can kind of tweak and refine from game to game. I'm not really telling Enzo Maresca what to do, but I think he kind of got it covered, Addy. But yeah, that's what I would be thinking anyway. All right, guys, check out that Patreon. Smash a like. We'll see you tomorrow. The history of tactics of Football Manager. See you later.